Hi, I'm Diana Belchase, and I'm here with the lovely Karna Small Bodman, talking about her book, Castle Bravo. And Karna has had the most amazing background as an author, and it's helped her be #1 on the Amazon thriller and suspense list several times. But I understand at one time you were the top ranking female in the Reagan White House staff.
At one point, that's true. I did serve in the Reagan White House for some 6 years. First as Deputy Press Secretary and later Senior Director of the National Security Council. So I try to have my readers feel like insiders. This is what happened in the Situation Room. This is what happened in the Oval Office or the Roosevelt Room. And I want them to feel like they were right there. And this is what happens with political intrigue and international suspense.
Well, that's what makes your books as authentic as they are. And actually, I understand you were Deputy Press Secretary at the time when Jim Brady was shot.
You're right. In fact, I'll tell you, that day is seared in my memory. And maybe others remember as well where they were on that day on March 30th, about 9 weeks after the inauguration of President Reagan. I can remember standing in front of Jim's desk there in the West Wing press office. And we were talking about this event that was coming up in a few minutes. I was scheduled to be in the car with Jim. And Jim, we were talking about the day's work, and I said, I have all these press calls to return and things to do and a schedule and whatnot. And Jim said, don't worry about it. This is a little speech over the Hilton Hotel for a union group. No big deal. I can handle this myself. You go tomorrow. There's another event tomorrow. You stay here, do the work, and I'll catch you later. I'll see you about 2:30. Well, as everybody knows, when they walked out of that hotel, I would have been standing right next to Jim. And that is the moment that John Hinckley fired those 6 shots in 3 seconds, combat style, 2 hands with a devastation bullet he thought would explode inside the victim. Didn't explode for one reason. He was using a smaller gun at 22. But I remember all that. I actually spent the day in the Situation Room as all the reports were coming in and we were dealing with it with members of the cabinet.
For our younger viewers,
Yes.
You're talking about the assassination attempt against Ronald Reagan.
President Reagan.
In
That's
which
right.
Jim Brady, press secretary, was wounded to the point that he was severely paralyzed.
Right. Mentally, Jim's great. I understand. I mean, whenever I've seen him, but he is in a wheelchair. And the press room has always been named the James Brady press room at the White House.
Well, it's
He
an
retained
honor
title,
that he certainly deserved.
Absolutely.
I also understand that you were the senior director of the National Security Council.
That was a bit later, that's right, and spokesman. So I was focusing on foreign policy issues. Had a chance to go to arms control talks, with the Soviets and summit meetings and that sort of thing.
Describe exactly what the National Security Council is.
The National Security Council is really the foreign policy arm of the White House. Okay, the National Security Advisor advises the President on national security issues, and as initiatives and policies come in from the different agencies, from state, defense, treasury, commerce, it's his job to analyze all of those and present fair options to the President for decision. So we're involved in a whole plethora of issues. Now, in my books, the heroine in Castle Bravo, I've created a different kind of a heroine. It's not me. I'm not that smart.
I don't know, you sound pretty smart to me, Karna.
Her job here is the director of the White House Office of Homeland Security. There's the whole department, DHS, but this is the White House Office of Homeland Security, which was created more recently. But in any event, so she learns about national security threats. That's her whole job, sifting through all kinds of things. But a threat comes to her attention that she feels is absolutely staggering, which I believe it is too. This is all, my stories are based on real events and real things. And what it is, it was explained to me, the inspiration was from a conversation I had with a major general who said, Karna, let me paint a scenario for you. Let's imagine that it's a few years down the road, and some group that doesn't like us or country isn't happy with us, one of our enemies, somehow gets hold of a small nuclear device. They're all trying, right?
Yes, they
Pakistan
are.
has 100 of them. All right. And let's say they also get hold of a delivery vehicle that you could strap it onto, shoot it off. Could be as simple as a Scud missile. In fact, somebody tried to sell a Scud missile on eBay, and they caught that guy. Okay, let's say these guys have these components, and they're in a ship, a disguised fishing boat or something, off one of our coasts. Now, what they're going to do is not aim it at Los Angeles or New York, which would be unbelievable, right? No, what they're going to do is shoot it straight up in the air. You know what happens when they detonate a small nuke way up in the atmosphere? It does not kill you on the ground. Does not.
No.
What happens is it creates what we call an electromagnetic pulse, EMP.
Yes.
That fries all the electronics on the ground. We would have no electricity grid, internet communications, sanitation, refrigeration, aviation, transportation. The general looked at me and said, Karna, it would set us back to the year 1910, and don't think our enemies aren't looking at it. So I thought, I want to write a story. So I wrote a story about this, and in the story, my heroine on the White House staff is really concerned because other countries have been experimenting with what we call e-weapons, electronic weapons. And they're focused on other problems, you know, come on, that's futuristic, we're not going to worry about it. Meanwhile, the love of her life is a business guy. He's sent overseas to a more remote area and gets caught up where one of these things does happen as a mistake. So we see the effects. And then the question is, could that be aimed at us? And it's quite a story, and there is a love interest.
Up my spine already.
There's a love interest, you know. You got to have a little romantic suspense going in here.
Well,
so that's what it's all about. That's the story of Castle Bravo, which actually I got the title. I stole it because that was the name of a classified government project, which has now been declassified. So I took the title.
Very good. And I want to read just a little bit about what Christopher Reich, the author of Rules of Betrayal, said about this book. Praise for Castle Bravo. Smart, slick, and exciting as hell. Castle Bravo is one great read. Karna Small Bodman has an insider's feel for the corridors of power. So I'm looking very forward to reading this book.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for being with me.
Thank you very much.
We're here with Karna Small Bodman. I'm Diana Belchase. Keep reading.